Greetings, fellow Insomniacs, and welcome to Insomniac Gaming Theater. I'm your host, the Crazy Player. Greetings, Tenno. So, in today's video, we're going to go over how to mod a primary weapon for Warframe. And we are going to try and explain every step along the way so that you understand why we're using the mods that we're using, and hopefully that will help you to understand how to mod other weapons. So not just the one I'm going to show you, but any weapon. So the very first thing that we're going to start with is a couple of basics. So this is our mod capacity. This is how much mods we can put on there. Now, obviously, we are hard limited to 9 mods. These 8 and an Exilus mod. Now, we're not going to worry about the Exilus mod for right now. However, each mod has a cost. As you can see, we have, things like split chamber and serration, and these all have a cost associated with them, and that comes out of this number right here. Now, there are 2 things that we can do that relate to this number that are very important. The first and foremost is if we go into actions, we have an Orokin Catalyst, or you can buy one for 20 platinum. I suggest getting them from the Nightwave. I have a video about that on the channel. You can install an Orokin Catalyst, and that will double your mod capacity. Now, in my case, my maximum mod capacity is 60 because I'm Master Rank 30, and if you level up your weapons to rank 30, then you will get 60. It's a whole thing. Don't worry about it. We'll cover that in another video. So every single weapon in Warframe has a set of damage stats, right? These are accuracy stats, all of this. We're not going to worry about this right now. We're going to look at critical chance, critical damage, status, and the different damage types. Now, you notice that this says 14 impact, 19 puncture, and 14 slash, and we're going to ignore the points, right? And that all adds up to this number right here. So this is what we call our base damage. Now, one of the first mods you want to put onto a weapon is the serration mod. And you'll note that it says, in my case, the maxed out one says 165% damage. But if you do, it starts at 15, and it has various steps up along the way. It goes up, if I remember correctly, it goes up by 15 for each dot that you put into it. In any case, so this is the first mod that we put on because it is a base damage mod. You notice that we put it on, and immediately these numbers all go up. And if you were to sit down and you do the math and you multiply these numbers by this percentage, it will come out to these numbers. Don't believe me? Pause the video, do the math yourself. I'm not going to sit here and do it for you. But it will work out to these numbers. So we always start with a base damage mod. Now, when you get to super high-end, there's some other tricks that you can pull, but you always want to start with a base damage mod because everything else you do on the weapon is going to be based off of these numbers. These numbers modified by this mod. This is at the beginning of the damage calculation. Everything else is derived from this number. Okay? So the next thing we're going to do is, and you'll notice, so this has a symbol. We call this a V. It has a specific name. It's a Matter-Eye symbol. We call it a V symbol, right? If you match the symbol to the symbol in the slot, instead of it costing 14, it costs half. It costs 7. It's very important if you want to maximize the amount of mods that you can put on to a weapon and really create a good build. Now, generally speaking, the next thing that gets put on in terms of the damage calculation and in terms of how we want to build a weapon is we want to put on an elemental mod. In this case, we're going to put on Hellfire, right? Which adds 90% heat. Now, what's interesting about this number, because it says 90%, is that it is 90% of, here, let me take this off again, it is 90% of this number right here. After serration, not any of these numbers, this total number. So if you put this on, this number is 90% of this number. And again, so we got 127.2, we put on Hellfire, we got 14.5. And if you go and you do the math, and again, if you want, you can pause the video and do that, you will discover that this number is 90% of this number. That's why these mods, Cryo Rounds, Hellfire, Infected Clip, and Stormbringer, which are referred to as the 90 elemental mods. Now, on a similar note, if I type heat in here, you'll notice that I have over here a mod that says 60% heat, 60% status chance. And we'll talk about status chance in a minute. But these kinds of mods that do 60% heat and 60% of an element and 60% status chance are called, you got it, the 60-60 mods. So when you hear people talk about the 90 mods and the 60-60 mods, these are what they are talking about for the various elements. All right, so we're going to go back here. We're going to go to Hellfire, and we're actually going to put it in the correct slot so that it is... so that it's properly reduced. Actually, we're going to put it over here. All right? Now, in addition to single elements, we have what we call combo elements, which are, if we put on Toxin, we get gas, because heat and Toxin make gas. Now, gas is not a particularly good damage type, but what's important is that this number is the sum of these two numbers based off of this, right? So you remember how earlier I was talking about how this number is 90% of this number? Well, if we put both of them on, this number is 90 and 90, or 180 of this number. Now, I know. It's like we're back in high school math class. Just bear with me, okay? It's not going to get too much more complicated from here. So, generally speaking, you want to put on at least one combo of element, usually the combo that whatever you're shooting at is most vulnerable to. Now, I'll be perfectly honest with you. At the time of this recording, which is August of 2023, the meta elemental combo is actually viral heat, because viral procs increase the amount of health damage an opponent takes, and heat procs do damage over time and also reduce enemy armor by 50% when they go off. In any case, so that's the meta, right? So all of these numbers are derived from these numbers multiplied by this. So this number right here multiplied by this and then multiplied by this gets us this number. All right? Hopefully you followed all of that. Now, part of the reason why I chose the Tiburon here as a weapon is because it demonstrates, it has multiple things that it does well, which allows me to demonstrate multiple different related ideas. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add some critical chance to this. Okay? Now, again, at the time of this recording, which I stated earlier, we're August 2023, critical delay over here is considered to be the meta crit chance mod, because it gives us the most bang for our buck. So this very simply takes this number and is going to multiply it by 200. This, by the way, is why stacking multiple of the same kind of effect is actually considered to be not great, because you get diminishing returns. So now instead of having a 28% critical chance, we have an 84% critical chance, which means every time we fire the weapon, there is an 84% chance that the hit is going to be a critical hit. And they talk about critical chance a bit more on here. If you want to read it, please feel free to do so. Now, fortunately, this is very straightforward. You just put this on, and then the other thing you want is you want point strike. Oh, excuse me. My bad. Vital sense. Point strike is the same as critical chance. Vital sense is critical damage. So now, every time we get a critical hit, instead of it doing 3 times normal damage to 6.6 times normal damage, which is a lot. It's very, very a lot. All right? Now, up until this point, this has been relatively straightforward. Yeah, we had to do some multiplication, some weird multiplication, but this has all been very straightforward. Now's where it starts getting really interesting, because we have the best thing on everything in Warframe, multi-shot. So, what does multi-shot do? Well, so these are the same basic thing. The difference is that the galvanized version gives you a bonus as you kill more enemies. But we'll take, for mathematical purposes, we'll take split chamber. All right? So, what does all of this do? Well, it's very simple to explain, but the game does not explain it very well at all. So, assuming you're using a semi-automatic weapon, every single time you click the button, it will fire 1 round out of your primary weapon. However, with multi-shot, you see we have 1.9 multi-shot. That means 90% of the time, we're getting a second round, but it doesn't actually come out of our ammo economy. It just magically appears. Poof. Whole new round. Right? So, we fire the weapon once, but we hit twice. Now, that means that instead of it doing this damage once, it does this damage twice. Now, related to that, it means that each round has its own chance to do a critical hit, so 84% chance to critical hit twice, for 6.6 multiplier if it hits. So instead of it doing about 900 damage, it actually has an 84% chance to do 6 times 9 is 54, so about 6,000 points of damage, roughly. And with multi-shot, that means that there is a chance that it will do about 6,000 damage twice. Every single time we fire the weapon. And that is the basics of how modding weapons in Warframe works. All right? We start with a basic damage mod. We add elemental mods because these all derive their amount of damage from this. We add critical chance to most of these things because critical hits do a whole lot more damage. And then we add multi-shot so that every time we do damage, there's a chance that we will do a second, or in some cases, third or fourth instance of damage. Now, you'll notice that we have a slot left over. There's a lot of different options you can put in here. The meta choice is a mod called Hunter Munitions. We're not going to get into that. There are quite a lot of options. But this is the basics of the damage formula. Is a basic damage mod, at least one elemental mod, usually a combination of a couple of different elemental types, critical chance, critical damage, and then multi-shot. We got that? I hope you do. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. I look forward to seeing you in the next video, and until then, get some rest. Thank you for joining us at Insomniac Gaming Theater. Please remember to like, subscribe, comment, and if you're so inclined, check out the Patreon in the link down below.